Welcome to Globewise Entertainment, where the spotlight shines behind the curtain of classic cinema. Today, we're diving into the darker side of Hollywood's golden age, where the glitz, the glam, and the gossip collided in fierce rivalries that shaped careers, destroyed friendships, and rewrote movie history. From backlit feuds to Oscar night snubs, these weren't just petty squabbles, they were all-out wars under the studio lights. But before we dive into the drama, if you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, hit that subscribe button now and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of old Hollywood's juiciest secrets. Let's get into it. 1. Bette Davis vs. Joan Crawford. This wasn't just a feud, this was Hollywood's greatest grudge match. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford were two of the biggest stars of the golden age, but behind the scenes, it was all-out war. It started with jealousy. Bette, the powerhouse actress. Joan, the glamorous icon. When Joan married the man Bette secretly loved, that lit the match. Then came the roles. Bette claimed Joan stole scripts, sabotaged auditions, and even manipulated studios to outshine her. Joan said Bette was nothing but bitter and overrated. The tension hit its peak in 1962 on the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, where the two played sisters locked in a twisted game of revenge. On-screen drama? Nothing compared to what happened when the cameras stopped rolling. Bette kicked Joan on set. Joan filled her costume with weights to throw off Bette's back during a scene. Petty? Absolutely. Iconic? Without question. And even after Joan's death in 1977, Bette didn't hold back. When asked for a comment, she famously said, "You should never say bad things about the dead, you should only say good." Joan Crawford is dead. Good. 2. Frank Sinatra vs. Marlon Brando, a clash of cool. They were two titans of talent, but they couldn't stand each other. Frank Sinatra, the smooth-talking crooner with swagger to spare. Marlon Brando, the brooding method actor who changed the game. Their feud hit a boiling point during the filming of Guys and Dolls in 1955. Sinatra wanted the role of Sky Masterson, but the studio gave it to Brando, a decision that lit a fuse. Sinatra didn't hide his disdain. He called Brando "mumbles" behind his back, mocking his mumbled delivery and method acting approach. Brando, in return, said working with Sinatra was like sharing the screen with a saloon singer who couldn't act. On set, the tension was ice cold. Brando would purposely mess up scenes so Sinatra had to redo takes, especially the ones where he was eating ice cream. Sinatra reportedly exploded in rage, calling Brando a fat slob and storming off set. Behind the scenes, it was ego versus ego, and neither one blinked. Though Guys and Dolls went on to be a hit, their rivalry never really cooled down. Two icons. One stage. No love lost. 3. Olivia de Havilland vs. Joan Fontaine, sisters at war. They were sisters by blood, but rivals by choice. Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine were two of the brightest stars of Hollywood's golden age, and their feud became legendary. From childhood, they competed for attention, praise, and roles, and that sibling tension followed them all the way to the silver screen. The real breaking point? The 1942 Academy Awards. Both sisters were nominated for Best Actress, Olivia for Hold Back the Dawn, Joan for Suspicion. That night, when Joan won the Oscar, she reportedly refused to let Olivia congratulate her on stage. Years later, Olivia would win her own Oscars, but the damage was done. Despite brief moments of peace, their rivalry simmered for decades, fueled by family slights, press speculation, and good old-fashioned jealousy. It wasn't just Hollywood drama, it was personal. 4. Errol Flynn vs. Bette Davis, When Fire Met Fury. In the golden age of Hollywood, Errol Flynn was the dashing swashbuckler, charming, rebellious, and adored by audiences. Bette Davis? A fierce, no-nonsense actress who demanded respect and took zero nonsense from anyone, especially her co-stars. When the two were cast together in The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex, 1939, sparks were expected on screen, and off-screen, they exploded. Bette Davis wanted Laurence Olivier for the role of Essex. She thought Errol Flynn was a lightweight, all looks, no talent. And she did not hide it. Flynn, in return, resented Davis's condescending attitude. Their on-set tension was legendary. In one intense scene, Davis slapped Flynn, and rumor has it, she did it way harder than the script called for. Their Cold War continued through filming, icy glares, sarcastic jabs, and a total lack of chemistry off-camera. Studio execs had to carefully manage the two to prevent full-on meltdown. The irony? Their feud made their performances electric. Sometimes, real-life rivalry makes movie magic, but don't expect a reunion. These two couldn't stand each other then, and never made peace. 5. Katherine Hepburn vs. Joan Crawford, the ice and fire of old Hollywood. In a town built on beauty and ego, Katherine Hepburn and Joan Crawford were like oil and water, powerful, glamorous, and utterly unwilling to share the spotlight. Their rivalry wasn't born from a single fight, but from what they represented. Joan Crawford was the picture of polished Hollywood perfection, every hair in place, every camera angle calculated. She lived for glamour, adored attention, and played the star on and off screen. Katherine Hepburn? The complete opposite. Fiercely independent, famously private, and known for wearing trousers before it was fashionable, Hepburn despised the Hollywood game, and made it clear. Their mutual disdain came to a head when Crawford once sniped, "She's a dyke in pants who acts like she's doing the world a favor." To which Hepburn allegedly shot back, "Joan is all eyebrows and ambition." They never worked together, and that was no accident. Studios kept them apart, for fear the set might not survive it. Two titans. Two egos. And not enough room in Hollywood for both. 6. Louis B. Mayer vs. Irving Thalberg. In the glamorous world of Hollywood's golden age, no rivalry was more powerful or influential than that between Louis B. Mayer, the dominant head of MGM, and Irving Thalberg, the studio's brilliant producer. On the surface, Mayer was the business tycoon, the dealmaker, the master of the MGM empire. He was known for his iron grip on the studio, his larger-than-life personality, and his ability to churn out box office hits. Thalberg, on the other hand, was the creative genius, the boy wonder, as the press called him. With his sharp mind and artistic vision, Thalberg produced some of the studio's biggest films, earning him the admiration of directors and actors alike. But beneath the surface, tension simmered. Mayer, ever the businessman, was driven by profit and control. Thalberg, a perfectionist, was more concerned with art and quality. While Mayer wanted mass appeal and star power, Thalberg dreamed of making films that would stand the test of time. The rivalry came to a head when Thalberg, who was a master at working with directors and actors, became frustrated with Mayer's micromanagement and the studio's focus on quantity over quality. Rumors swirled that Thalberg was considering leaving MGM to create his own studio, and Mayer, feeling threatened by his young protégé's rising power, began to make his life at MGM more difficult. Their bitter conflict came to a tragic conclusion when Thalberg died unexpectedly in 1936 at just 37 years old. While the cause of his death was heart disease, many believe that the stress from his constant battles with Mayer had played a role in his early demise. Though Thalberg was gone, the effects of this bitter rivalry would echo through Hollywood for years to come. Mayer's control over MGM remained unchallenged, but the shadow of Thalberg's creativity and vision loomed large, forever altering the landscape of American cinema. 7. Greta Garbo vs. Norma Shearer. In the glamorous world of Golden Age Hollywood, two of its biggest stars, Greta Garbo and Norma Shearer, were locked in a fierce rivalry that lasted for years. It wasn't just about beauty or talent, it was about who would claim the title of Hollywood's queen. Greta Garbo, with her enigmatic allure and haunting performances, was the picture of mystery. She was known for her sultry roles in films like Camille and Anna Karenina, leaving audiences captivated by her almost otherworldly presence. She was the silent siren, a recluse who kept her personal life a secret, drawing the public in with every glance. In stark contrast, Norma Shearer was the epitome of glamour and sophistication. As MGM's leading lady, she was adored for her roles in films like The Divorcée and Marie Antoinette. She wasn't just a pretty face, she was a shrewd businesswoman and known for her ability to land the best roles, thanks to her connection with MGM's head, Irving Thalberg, who also happened to be her husband. But the tension between Garbo and Shearer came to a head at the Academy Awards. When the two were both nominated for Best Actress in 1930, the rivalry reached its peak. Norma won the Oscar that year, but it wasn't just her victory that stung Garbo, it was the public's adoration of Shearer, who was seen as the perfect blend of glamour and professionalism, while Garbo's aloofness seemed to be misunderstood by the press. The rivalry simmered behind the scenes. Stories circulated that Garbo would refuse to even acknowledge Shearer at social gatherings, and Shearer, who was known for being more political and social, was said to have played the game of public opinion far better. Some rumors even suggested that Garbo's distant demeanor only added to Shearer's ambition to outshine her. Despite their differences, both women remained at the top of Hollywood's hierarchy, though their paths never truly crossed beyond the professional stage. Garbo continued to mesmerize audiences, though she slowly withdrew from the spotlight. Meanwhile, Shearer carried on as one of MGM's most reliable stars until the 40s, when her career began to fade. Ultimately, their rivalry wasn't just about competition, it was about two women vying for control over their image, their careers, and their place in Hollywood's history. Though they never publicly clashed, the bitterness of that rivalry was felt by all who watched the two giants on screen, forever shaping the legacy of Hollywood's golden age. 8. Mickey Rooney vs. Judy Garland. Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland were one of Hollywood's most beloved on-screen duos. Together, they starred in a series of hit musicals during the 1930s and 40s, captivating audiences with their chemistry, charm, and youthful energy. But behind the scenes, their relationship was far from perfect. The two stars had a complicated and, at times, toxic rivalry, despite their close friendship early on. They were both signed to MGM at a young age and constantly pushed to perform together. The pressure of fame, grueling work schedules, and personal struggles began to take a toll. Rooney, who had been a child star for much longer than Garland, often resented Judy's rising stardom. Garland, on the other hand, was dealing with her own battles, constant weight fluctuations, personal insecurities, and a controlling studio system that took advantage of her vulnerability. The tension between them reached a breaking point when they both were involved in a highly publicized romantic relationship in their teens, which ended badly and left them both heartbroken. Despite their individual struggles, the studio continued to pair them in films, expecting their on-screen chemistry to shine through. But the rivalry between them was evident, each one tried to outshine the other, sometimes competing for roles, sometimes trying to one-up the other in terms of popularity and performance. Their feud grew especially bitter when Judy Garland's personal troubles, including issues with alcohol and prescription drugs, led to her being dropped from major projects and her career taking a hit. Mickey Rooney, always the overachiever, was rising in popularity, and the divide between their careers couldn't have been starker. Yet, despite the rivalry and the tension, Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland would later reconcile, but it wasn't easy. They would go on to share fond memories and reflect on their years together with bittersweet nostalgia. But for a while, their friendship and professional partnership were marred by jealousy, resentment, and the pressures of being two young stars in the ruthless world of Hollywood. 9. Orson Welles vs. William Randolph Hearst. It's a rivalry that spanned beyond the silver screen, one that pitted artistic genius against media mogul in a battle that shook Hollywood to its core. In the 1940s, young filmmaker Orson Welles was on top of the world after the groundbreaking success of Citizen Kane, a film widely regarded as one of the greatest of all time. But what Wells didn't expect was the wrath of one of the most powerful men in America, William Randolph Hearst, the media tycoon who believed the movie was a thinly veiled attack on his life and empire. Wells had based the character of Charles Foster Kane, the movie's central figure, on Hearst, especially his larger-than-life persona and his vast control over the media. But Hearst, who controlled a massive network of newspapers, wasn't about to let this insult slide. In retaliation, Hearst used his media empire to launch a campaign against Citizen Kane, trying to destroy its reputation. He banned all references to the film in his newspapers and ordered an all-out war to ensure the movie's failure. But Wells was undeterred. In fact, the conflict seemed to only fuel his passion. With relentless ambition, he pushed the boundaries of film as an art form, cementing his legacy despite Hearst's efforts. Despite Hearst's best attempts to suppress Citizen Kane, the film went on to receive 9 Academy Award nominations, winning Best Original Screenplay. Though it never fully recovered financially at the time, the legacy of the film, and the bitter rivalry it sparked, has lived on for generations. In the end, Orson Welles didn't just beat Hearst at the box office. He won a place in history as one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. 10. Vivien Leigh vs. Laurence Olivier, post-divorce. Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier were once the power couple of Hollywood, an iconic, glamorous duo whose on-screen chemistry in That Hamilton Woman and Gone with the Wind captured hearts around the world. But behind the scenes, their relationship was far from perfect. Their marriage, which seemed destined for the stars, started to crumble under the weight of their respective careers and personal struggles. Vivien, battling bipolar disorder, and Laurence, struggling with his own demons, were pushed to their limits. After 20 years of a tumultuous relationship, the couple divorced in 1960. But the drama didn't end there. Even after their split, the bitterness between Vivien and Laurence simmered beneath the surface. Both stars went on to have successful careers post-divorce, but the rivalry between them was undeniable. Olivier, who had already established himself as a towering figure in the theater world, was not above using their past for personal gain. Vivien, on the other hand, carried the emotional scars of their marriage, which colored her public and private life. At one point, Vivien was cast in a stage production of A Streetcar Named Desire, a role she had already made legendary on screen. But Olivier, who was directing The Entertainer at the time, couldn't help but make snide remarks about her performance. His critiques were often public, and they only fueled the tension between them. Vivien, no stranger to the cruelty of public opinion, handled it with grace and dignity on the surface, but beneath it all, the wounds of their marriage and divorce were still raw. Their encounters after the split were few, but each meeting was charged with the weight of their shared history, their bitterness, and their mutual desire to outshine the other. Their rivalry wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was a clash of pride, legacy, and the ghosts of a marriage that had once promised the world. And that's a wrap on the top 10 bitter rivals of the golden age of Hollywood. From feuds that shaped the screen to drama behind the scenes, these stars knew how to keep things interesting, both on and off the camera. If you enjoyed the gossip and the drama, make sure to hit that like button and let us know which rivalry shocked you the most in the comments below. And remember, if you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button now and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of Hollywood's greatest stories, shocking secrets, and all the stars you love. Until next time, keep your popcorn ready and stay tuned for more.